ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Joseph now again wanted to cut in on that right foot like he always does. Laid off to Diaz. He'll take a shot, bounces back. Still Diaz. Shot! Digs through. It's hit across. And it's Roberts there again. Roberts does it again. 3 straight games, and this one's the big one. He's giving him the national championship.
The Drive with Paul Swann.
That was the golden goal last night. Jamil Roberts making Marshall a champion. Welcome into The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our phone lines this hour brought to you by White Claw at 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. White Claw hard seltzer made pure. And you heard it just now. Marshall defeating the third-ranked Indiana Hoosiers for the national championship. Marshall senior Jamil Roberts nabs his third straight game winner of the tournament with that golden goal in the 98th minute. Had to go to overtime. Thundering Herd dominated this match start to finish. Marshall was more aggressive. Marshall was the better team in possession. Marshall just did everything better. Marshall was considered the underdog. I think Indiana was the underdog coming into this one, the way Marshall just played and dominated. I mean, it's a beautiful sound. Here's that golden goal once again.
Joseph now again wanted to cut in on that right foot like he always does. Laid off to Diaz. He'll take a shot, bounces back. Still Diaz. Shot! Digs through. It's hit across. And it's Roberts there again. Roberts does it again. 3 straight games, and this one's the big one. He's giving him the national championship for the first time ever. The Thundering Herd are top of the heap.
Thundering Herd winning its first national championship. Thundering Herd winning, honestly, in brilliant fashion. So Marshall now has the championship. It's on the bus. It's going to be back here in Huntington sooner than later. There's an event planned at Hoops Family Field at the Veterans Memorial Soccer Complex. That's coming up tonight. Tentatively set for 6, but that's been pushed back to more like 7:30. So a big fan gathering will be there to welcome the Herd home, as Marshall will have the trophy and the victorious team coming off the bus here in the next couple of hours. So Jamil Roberts, he's the hero of the match, gets that golden goal. Had a chance to catch up with him after the match last night. We were up late talking about this victory, and I asked Jamil, put in his own words, how that play progressed and what it felt like hitting the golden goal. Here's what he had to say.
In my words, wow. Deja vu. Yeah, Vitor in the box. Does something no other player on the pitch can do. Keeper makes a decent save, and I'm there to tap it in. That's all I can say. It's deja vu. So luckily, I'm in the right place at the right time, and that's what we train. And that's, I make that run 20, 30 times in the game, but it only takes that one time for the ball to drop. And as coach always says, we love tap-ins, and it was just the best way to finish this incredible season.
So you finish the season, you're a national champion. You could have started your professional career if you're Jamil Roberts, but instead you're a national champion now, and he was asked to reflect on that. For now until evermore, he will be known as a national championship. And here's his thoughts on his new state of being. I probably
won't look back and reminisce on things for a long time. I've got to keep this momentum going once I join up with Sporting. But there's a moment to be enjoyed right now, and I don't want to think too far ahead into the future, and I don't want to think about the past 4 years. I just want to live in this incredible moment and enjoy it with the best coaching staff in the country, and my brothers who are my teammates, and all the best fans in the nation that are on the field right now.
He's got the golden goal. He's got a national championship next to his name. He's Jamil Roberts. Now, Chris Grassie, when we caught up with him last night after the match, he said in his opening statement he was proud of his team.
I mean, I'm immensely proud to be a part of this team. I think those guys down there, I mean, we all kind of came together this season, and we just got better and better and better. And we had some bumps in the road. I know there's a couple of people tonight will be happy that they've beat a national champion this season. But we continue to learn from each lesson, each setback, and it was the way it felt. It just felt amazing to be around this group, to be with each other. Everything felt dialed in. We just couldn't get enough of hanging out, and couldn't get enough of watching scouts and film and working with the guys. And it was just one of those things where everybody was feeding off it, more and more, and just being able to hang out socially for these last couple of weeks have been fantastic. Big congratulations to Indiana. I thought they played really, really well. They caused us, problems on the counter-attack, particularly in the first half, and we had to kind of deal with that. But we just kept doing our thing. We kept playing our style, keeping the ball, knocking it around, and we got more and more chances. And I just felt there was only ever going to be one winner. So it was, I'm glad we got it when we did, and just when it went in, I just felt surreal.
So I asked Coach, I kind of wanted to get his take on what was going through his mind, describe the golden goal, what he was feeling as the play progressed. And I don't think he can say 100% what he was feeling, but he did break it down for us.
I don't know if I can say that. So it was, we kind of attacked, and it'd been the 7th or 8th attack we'd had that was quite similar, where we got in and it fell and looked like he was going to get the shot off, and he did, and then just not seeing as it came down, I thought it was going to go in the first time, and then watching Jamil sort of run in, tap it in was just one of those moments. I mean, time kind of stopped, and I was just kind of, what do I do now?
What you do now is you celebrate being a national champion, and Jamil Roberts, we'll hear more from him later on. But Jamil, he had an opportunity to leave, but he stayed. And he knew that this team would be good and this team could win a national championship. And he's a big part of Marshall's success. A lot of players are a big part of Marshall's success. Jamil has been there. He's seen it all. He's done it all. He's now a national champion. Coach Grassie talked about what Jamil has meant to the program.
He's been huge, for us. And for me, Jamil is, he's grown so much as a player, but he's grown even more as a person. And just watching that development, and watching him kind of be sensible. He's a guy who maybe would have said the wrong thing in the first couple of years, and he's kind of really honed his sort of output outside of soccer, and he's right on point. And just watching the personal growth that he's gone through, it just makes me extremely proud. And look, he's a very dangerous player. He interprets space. He runs into space. We have a lot of guys who are very good dribbling 1v1, and Jamil's skill is finding that space, finding the gaps in the opposition, and he's done it in the last 3 games, very well. He's just that sort of space interpreter in behind, and he can give teams penetration, and I think he'll, find a very nice home at the professional level, and we're very, very proud for him, and what a way for him to go out. I mean, there's nothing left for him to achieve. It's him, Pedro, Colin, Kyle Winquist, who left and came back, from day one. I hope we're not forgetting anybody. But, those guys have all matured so much, and they've grown into the program, and they've helped us grow the program. You just don't know when you kind of have an idea at the beginning of a season, and then you see how the guys are playing, and they kind of grow the idea in a different direction for you. And Jamil, Pedro, Colin, Kyle, they've all done that. They've all helped us grow to where we are today.
That's Chris Grassie on what Jamil has meant to the program. He's also enjoying today because Jamil named the offensive most outstanding player. So honors all around for everyone for the Thundering Herd. Now, there's a ceremony. There is a celebration being planned later on this evening. It was scheduled for 6 o'clock. It's looking more like 7:30 now at the stadium for the Thundering Herd when they arrive. Chris Grassie en route. We will talk to him on the other side of the break later on from HerdVison. Jake Griffith, he's covered the team all season long. We'll get his final thoughts on this victory. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. We would be back here tomorrow talking about a national championship. I'm glad Chris Grassie was able to make that happen for us. We will continue on with the head coach, Chris Grassie, here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
I want to welcome to the program now. He is on his way back to Huntington. There's a celebration planned later on this evening for the national champion Thundering Herd, and the head coach, Chris Grassie, joins us now on the program. And Coach, I'm sure it's been a whirlwind for you since last night. Have you had a chance to decompress and maybe process the whole thing a little bit more?
Not really. You know, we've been probably had about 2 hours sleep. Everybody came back to the hotel and we celebrated pretty much into the morning. And then we've been on the bus back since. So we're about probably an hour or two from Huntington.
Celebration's coming up tonight. As soon as you get here, I'm sure there will be a huge fan base there to greet you, and I'm sure a lot of people have driven as fast as they possibly can to get back here. That's one thing that I'm sure you're probably not amazed from. You were expecting this. The fan support last night for this program, you mentioned it. Who was the last person in Huntington? I hope they turned the lights out, because you were right a few nights ago when someone asked you about the fan support from North Carolina. You mentioned, hey, look, did you see the fans we had here from Huntington? And you basically said everybody will show up, and you were right. And I mean, what an amazing atmosphere. Yeah,
I mean, amazed, super thankful. I mean, the support was phenomenal. I mean, it's part of the reason I think we were able to play so well. You know, we were so well supported. We felt so comfortable. We felt so sort of loved. It was just a great environment. I mean, a great soccer environment, a great exhibition for the sport, and just a great, poster for how great the Marshall community is. You know, the Herd Nation just absolutely coming out in droves. It was phenomenal. I'm just so proud and so thankful.
Now that it's over, at least the part on the field, and you're coming back home, does it feel like it should? I mean, is it greater than what you expected it would be? Yeah, because this is a national championship. This is the pinnacle here. So now that you're there, does it feel like what you thought it would be, or is it greater? Or is it different? What's the feeling?
Honestly, I mean, my reflections right now, I thanked the guys before the game, because it just felt magical. The group just felt so connected. I know Phil Jackson in his book 11 Rings, references tribal leadership, and they represent like he references a level 5 team, a level 4 team being a team that can win championships. We're great, you're not mentality. But the level 5 just takes that to a whole other level. It just feels like life is wonderful. And this whole, 3 weeks, it's just felt better and better and better. And before the game, I just really felt in my soul, just win or lose. It didn't matter. Like, the guys had achieved that perfection, that sort of that rare instance when a team just completely comes together. They love each other. They support each other. They play well. They play the brand of football their own way. It just all felt like it came together. And I guess that's almost better than actually winning it. And just kind of haven't achieved that. And of course, the winning the national championship is just sort of the icing on that cake, just the sort of proof in the pudding. And the way we played last night, the way we were able to perform under such a big game, such a pressure against such a storied program, and we were just by miles the better team, and it was just amazing to see.
Chris Grassie joins me en route to Huntington. Celebration coming up later on this evening to welcome back the national champions. And you mentioned the road you had to go through. A lot of national media called this Marshall being an underdog. You never came into this feeling as if you were the underdog at all. I think this final game, you proved it once and for all. Marshall was not the underdog. It was the other teams that were the ones that were the underdogs coming in.
100%. I thought we were the favorites in every game. In my mind, I thought we were, disrespected by, the seeding committee to not be seeded and to put us in the number one bracket. I think they expected us just to roll over and go home. But we knew. I mean, we had, from the very first day, we've had the speaker series going on. We've had some wonderful speakers before every game, the night before every game. And we were able to have the very first one. We had Dr. Greg Dale, who's a sports psychologist from Duke. And we chatted beforehand about the championship mentality, because once you've won a championship, it's sort of easier. And so we were able to come up with something, and he was able to sort of lead us in a direction of like, look, this is the difference between champions and everybody else. Champions know that they don't have to go out and have a magical superhuman performance. They know they just have to go out and get their fundamentals right and do what they normally do. And I think our team's been absolutely the epitome of doing that. We've just gone out and just played our game. Nobody's tried to do anything super special. We've just done our game, and then we've worked really hard defensively, and that's been the key to it. Just a fantastic achievement for the guys, and we were always the better team in the games, I believe.
You have the trophy to prove it now. You have the resume. There's no asterisks. You were talking about that early on before we got to last night, that there would not be an asterisk or a star next to this championship. I mean, Marshall earned it, defeated everybody on the schedule, the top teams, and now do you have time to enjoy this? Can you enjoy it until you're working on the next championship? Because I know you'll enjoy this for a few days, but then you're probably going to be right back at it trying to make sure you can win a second one now. That's the goal here.
Yeah, that's the goal. It was funny, which I think it's 10 weeks until the guys report for preseason or something along those lines. And so it's going to be a very turnaround time. I think Georgetown got to hang on to the trophy for 18 months, and we get it for 2 months or 3 months, before we got to put it up for grabs again and try and win it again. But we will. I think we get better next year. I really do. I think we improve as a team, and now we have that championship. We're going to have that star across our badge to show that we've won a national championship, and that's going to give us the confidence. And I feel like all of these guys come back and they've all improved and they've all learned from these experiences, and we'll be really, really tough to beat. And I'd said, before the game, I just kind of try to make a decision. I'm like, I'm not going to touch this trophy. I'm not going to lift this trophy. I'm going to wait till next year. I'll get the next one. But then, Pedro kind of was going to drop it on me, so I kind of had to grab it and really enjoy the moment. And I'm really glad he made me do that. But I think, our mentality, we'll enjoy this, and we'll use this, to win another one. I think that's the easiest, the easiest thing to do once you've won one. That's the hardest, and then it's easier to win the next ones. So, we'll use this, and we'll bring the majority of guys back, and we'll evolve the way we play. We'll try and push the boundaries of what we're doing with possession football, and try and improve and get better, win it again.
Chris Grassie joins me, head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd, winners of the College Cup, the NCAA tournament, victorious. You mentioned the star on the badge. That's more important almost than the trophy itself there, because the badge is permanent. I mean, the trophy will be nice. It'll be in the trophy case. People can go look at it, but that star doesn't go away. It's going to be there forever now.
Yeah. No, that's definitely is. It definitely, leaves a legacy for the program, which is important. Soccer school Marshall, as we talk about, trying to be a destination soccer school. And I think all those recruits, throughout the years that have, passed us up to go, to so-called bigger schools, or to go and, live by the beach, or, in a big city. And we always just ask them, like, are you really concerned about your football? Like, is it your football you want to develop? Because that's where you'll get it here. And I think, that star on the badge now, and the performance of the guys and the way they did it, the way we played, I think will, really be a fantastic advert, for future recruits and future. I already know this. I've already been contacted by so many, people on the transfer portal and what have you. So it's just a great achievement, and that'll leave a legacy and make it easier for us to continue to get better.
Chris Grassie joins me, head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd, winners of the national championship. And I'm just kind of curious for you personally. Normally, you win a championship, you've got a group of guys, it's been a long journey, and then you got to say goodbye to several of those players. For you, you mentioned you're getting stronger next season, and because mostly everyone's coming back, and so your bus ride, I'm sure, is not melancholy whatsoever because you're not losing these guys. I mean, you guys are coming right back at it with almost everybody intact.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously, we lose Jamil Roberts, and hopefully he signs a long pro deal and has a great pro career. And we wish him all the best. He's been phenomenal for the program. He's always going to be difficult to replace, but I think as we lost huge players in Alal and Carlos and Jonas and Paulo last year, we replaced them and evolved and continued to get better. So I think, the majority of the group, 11 of the 12 guys who played last night are all coming back. And so we will be able to take that experience and just get back better. And we'll also lose Kyle Winquist, our backup goalkeeper, who's been terrific. He's off to law school at Villanova. And so we wish him absolutely the best. He's been a great guy for the program and one of those unsung heroes who's given it day in and day out 100% in training every day, and help make the program better. But him and Jimmy will be missed. But we move on and we continue to grow. And like you said, we just bring so many guys back, and it just feels it's going to feel the same. We're not going to have to reteach anything. We'll be able to take what we've done and evolve it, which is the exciting part as a coach right now, and we're really excited for that challenge.
Does that help from the standpoint that you came into this tournament, you came into this season, you knew what you had, but still, you mentioned maybe a little disrespect, chip on your shoulder. Does this team need that chip on its shoulder, or was that just added extra motivation to go out there and prove everyone wrong because you had the best team out there? Yeah, and again, the Indiana match proved that, without a reasonable doubt. I mean, you outworked them, outperformed them, but you go from the hunter to the hunted now. Is that's a new dynamic?
It certainly is, and I think we felt that a little bit in conference play, and playing teams this year. We would scout teams in conference this year, and they would play one way for 5 or 6 games before they played us, and then they would come to us, and it would be completely different. They would change their style; it would be a little bit more defensive. They would, adapt some of the things they would do to play us, and so it was difficult. You were getting everybody's A game, and everybody was coming in treating you like a top team, which was, it's kind of difficult to play against. And we expect that to be twofold next year, with teams coming in and trying to sort of shut up shop and really come with a plan. And look, it'll be we'll get their A game. That'll be like a massive target on our back and a massive achievement for them if they can beat us. And so we're going to have to be ready in every single game. We'll have to have that championship mentality where we, put teams away early and, stay on top of them and don't let them breathe and live up to their expectations a little bit.
Chris Grassie with me en route to Huntington as we speak. Celebration happening later on this evening at the field. You've got, I'm sure, a huge crowd waiting for you. You've got the trophy. When you bring that trophy out, I'm sure it's going to be electric, but you also have the distinct honor of bringing the first soccer championship, the first national championship to Conference USA. I mean, you knew coming into this a few years ago, Conference USA was a really strong brand of soccer, and you've beaten the best now and showed that, hey, this league is where it's at. Yeah, this is Conference USA soccer. It's the best.
Yeah, it's a fantastic conference. The conference is growing. We have a couple of big schools in there from the SEC. We're adding Coastal Carolina to it as an affiliate member. We're going to add another affiliate member that I'm not allowed to talk about. That's going to be really, really exciting. And our conference is going to be, the best in the country, and that's what we want. I've really tried as well to push to get everybody on the same page. And look, let's make Conference USA, absolutely the best, the best conference in the country. And let's make sure those top 4, 5, 6 teams get in the NCAA tournament. And then it's our job amongst the league to fight against each other, to be in there. But as a unit, as a group of coaches, we need to push the conference together because it truly is a sort of a top 3 conference, a power conference in soccer. So, that's great preparation for us. That's great training for us. If we can do well in Conference USA, it naturally lends itself to be able to do great in the national tournament as well.
Chris Grassie, my guest. Thanks for taking us on this ride. I know it's not over for you. You still have some things to do when you get home here tonight, but It's been amazing. Thanks for being on the ride with us and taking us there. And I can't wait here. We're talking about this again, in a couple of months? No rest for you.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get a little bit of downtime, but I mean, I love my job. It's the most amazing way to spend a life. I think I just love every minute of it. It doesn't feel like work a lot of the time. So, we'll get right back at it and, just learn from what we've done this year and hopefully repeat next year.
Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to the first star on the shield, the logo, the second star. I can't wait to see what that looks like as well. And good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Chris Grassie on the way to Huntington. Big celebration happening later on this evening. To get that first star, that's what is the hardest. And once you get that, it makes it a lot easier to get that second one. And it's going to be a fun journey as Marshall's really building a strong tradition and program in soccer. National champion. Need I say more? When we continue, we're going to have Jake Griffith on. He's from HerdVison. He's been following this team several years, including this season. We'll get his thoughts. I'm sure he was pulling his hair out last night watching this one because we all were anxious for a while. He joins me when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our phone lines this hour brought to you by White Claw at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. I'm Paul Swann. Welcome back to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Before we welcome him back onto the program, let's hear that golden goal one more time.
Joseph now again wanted to cut in on that right foot like he always does. Laid off to Diaz. He'll take a shot, bounces back. Still Diaz. Shot! Digs through! It's hit across! And it's Roberts there again! Roberts does it again! 3 straight games, and this one's the big one! He's giving him the national championship!
See, I didn't hear that last night. I had to wait to hear that because I was watching. Jake Griffith joins me on the program. I was watching the Spanish feed last night, Jake. I didn't understand half of what they were saying, but it sounded like they were having even more fun.
Well, the goal call of the Spanish broadcast obviously has gone viral, and it was everything that you could want it to be and more.
It was beautiful.
You got to give. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. You got to give credit to both broadcast teams. I think both teams did a really good job of covering it. I took 6 years of Spanish between high school and college, so I picked up a little bit, and I'm trying to self-teach myself German here in the off season so I can sprinkle a little German in the broadcast next year. But that's the biggest stage in college soccer. It's anybody that gets an opportunity to do it and they knock it out of the park. I got to tip my cap to them.
Jake Griffith joins us. He is from HerdVison, the Thundering Herd, winning the national championship. We declared it yesterday. We even booked this segment ahead of time just because we knew it would happen. Man, aren't you relieved that it happened? Because I was sitting there. I mean, we were all hyperventilating. I'm sure a lot of Herd fans' heart rates went up last night. This thing was going on and on. Marshall, though, was generating so many opportunities. I think we were probably the only ones who were really on edge. I'm sure Chris Grassie and the team are like, all right, we'll get this in when we get it.
I talked a lot with people that were some of my friends and other people that were watching at the various watch parties. And the one thing that they kept saying, like, wow, are we don't really understand soccer. Are we playing well? And like you said, Paul, yesterday we discussed this, and I got on here and I said, I have the utmost confidence that Marshall is going to win the national championship tomorrow night. And sure, were there a little bit of nerves, were there some uneasiness? Of course. But that first 30 minutes to me was what really solidified it. Yeah, Marshall didn't put up a goal, but they dominated the possession. Exactly what I told you they needed to do. They ran Indiana ragged. They controlled the possession. The possession ended up, I believe, being 62-38 at the end of the match in favor of Marshall. Indiana had to turn and chase and run the entire night. And so really for me, that first 30 minutes set the tone where they said, okay, through this first half hour, we're dominating Indiana. Shots, corners, possession time. The only thing that hasn't come is a goal, and that's a huge testament to Roman Celentano, the Big Ten Keeper of the Year for Indiana. Obviously, one most outstanding defensive player for the College Cup, and you saw it on display. I mean, Celentano was all over the place. You want to talk about standing on your head. A tip of the cap to him. But Marshall played, I think, as well as they could have coming out of the gates to start that first half.
Was that their best soccer, you think? When you put it all together, you look at it, and you've seen more matches than most. Is that their best yet, or have you seen better, or is there still better to come? I mean, it was good enough to win the national championship, but still, is that the best we've seen?
I still think, and I'm sure Chris Grassie would echo this sentiment, I still think that this team has not reached its ceiling in this incarnation. Of course, the season is over, but he even said it after the semifinal. You don't have to play your best game to win the national championship. You just have to go out and execute the game plan, and you have to play well. And there is a little bit of luck that factors into it. That goal that Marshall scored, you could describe it as a touch of luck. Luck went in the opposite direction for Indiana. I think they had 2 or 3 shots go off the woodwork that you place them an inch or two to the left or right. Those are in the back of the net. We might be talking about a different story. And so there are so many factors that go into winning a national championship. Predominantly, it's about the tactical, the game plan, executing it, about your roster, about adjustments that the staff can make. But like I said, there's also luck that goes into it. But as far as it being the best match Marshall played, I think they still have yet to hit their ceiling, but I do think it's one of the best that they've played this year. And hats off to Jamil Roberts, Vitor Diaz, Milo Joseph. Some of those runs Vitor Diaz made in that final third were outstanding. I know I heard on the broadcast, I believe it was Devin Kerr, the former MLS player. He was somewhat critical of Joseph and Diaz, their decision-making. But personally, I loved it. Of course, I didn't play the game. I'm a hockey player. But I broadcast Marshall, and I've seen them all year long. I thought Vitor Diaz played perhaps one of his, if not his best match of the season. And yes, he may not have scored, but he does, I believe, get the assist on the Jamil Roberts goal. I mean, some of the pressure he was putting on that back four for Indiana was outstanding. And the top-end speed that he was displaying, I remember there was one in the second half. He just weaved right through the heart of the defense and turned on the jet and got right into a great prime scoring opportunity right at the top of the 18. And, of course, Celentano made a fantastic save. But Vitor Diaz played extremely well. Marshall played extremely well. But I say all that to say I think that they still have better matches in them, which is a scary thought considering if that is the case and they still won the national championship, my goodness, what happens if they fully hit their stride, if they reach their season?
Yeah, and I talked to Coach earlier, and he's talking about, hey, yeah, we lose Jamil, but we're getting better. Really? You're getting better. Man, he's a coach that will tell you how he feels. I mean, he's confident. He's not cocky, but he's confident, and he's talking about this team getting better and already revealing that there are a lot of players giving the Thundering Herd phone calls. Hey, look, I'm in the transfer portal. It's going to be quite easy for right now for the Thundering Herd to have its choice of players to try to fill a few holes and get better.
Well, they really like the Virginia Tech transfer, Alex Ajeti. He was on the roster to start the season. He was not eligible. He did play in a match with the Hokies and was not able to get eligible for this spring season. They really like the player that he is, and he plays a similar position to Jamil. He will most likely, barring some sort of crazy turn of events, he will most likely be the one that slides in there to fill that hole left by Jamil Roberts. And those are sizable shoes to fill. I am on record, and my @ on Twitter is @NotTheRealJake Griffith. If you disagree with me, you can tweet at me. But I'm of the mindset that I think with what he's personally accomplished and what he's accomplished in a team setting, I think Jamil Roberts is the greatest Marshall athlete in the history of Marshall athletics. I know there's a long list of them, but you look at the teams that he's helped Marshall beat, what he's achieved as a player, both personally, professionally now, going pro, also in a team standpoint. I think Jamil Roberts is the greatest player to don the M right now for Marshall. So those are big shoes to fill for a guy like Alex Ajeti. But he's fast, he's quick, He can work his way into that final third, and it just gives them another person. It's like a three-headed monster essentially up top with that 4-3-3 formation that this coaching staff loves to run. They have so many options at their disposal, and so it is scary to think that Coach Grassie saying, "Hey, we won the national championship this year, but we can be better. We're going to be better next year." And me personally, I have no reason to think that he's wrong because he's been right about everything to this point. So if he's saying they're going to be better next year, then you know what? I believe it.
Okay, so the Marshall Mount Rushmore, Jamil Roberts, Chad Pennington. Where else are we going here? Because this is going to start a different fight altogether. But so somebody's going off the Mount Rushmore. You can only have 4. It's Mount Rushmore, and Jamil's on that Mount Rushmore now.
He has to be. I mean, I think I don't know. I'm not one of those that necessarily gets into the Mount Rushmore because it's so hard because there's only 4 slots.
Right, and John Elmore right now is on that. So you got John Elmore, Chad Pennington, right. Jamil is on that. So we're building a statue of him when we get that one of Elmore built as well.
I think Jamil has to be. And honestly, people always look at, some of the football players that have played at Marshall. But I'll throw you a wild card here. What about Christina Bainfield? One of only 3 women to ever score 2,000 career points in a Marshall uniform. She's been on the only NCAA tournament team in Marshall women's basketball history. There's a name right there for you. She's got her jersey retired. So does Karen Telford. There's a whole litany of players across all sports that you could throw in there. But I think Jamil undoubtedly has to go down as at least one of the top 5 greatest Marshall athletes of all time, just simply because, again, not just because they won the national championship, but there's a direct correlation between Jamil Roberts being on this team and Marshall winning the last 3 matches. 3 consecutive match winners for Jamil. He first or second all-time in career assists in Marshall program history. That 11 shirt that we always talk soccer, there's so much history and tradition around the 10 shirt. Let me tell you what, Jamil Roberts has given new life and new meaning to what it means to wear number 11.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Greatest sports victory ever for the Thundering Herd. Now, we're talking about the game against Xavier in 71 is right up there with Herd fans. The 1992 1AA National Championship is right there. This one's probably now, if there's a top 3 to debate, this is in that top 3, or does it bump the other 2 and take sole possession, or is this just going to be a fun debate for years to come?
I think it'll be a fun debate for years to come, but I think it is worth saying that no matter what the circumstances are, I think the victory against Xavier is probably the most important game that's ever been, win that's ever been notched in Marshall program history, simply because of the circumstances surrounding it. And what football means to this town as a result of it. There's been since that game for Marshall football, there's been an upward trajectory in the program, the direction of the program, the quality of players that have come here, the championships. I can go on and on. I think that's probably the most important sporting event that's ever occurred in Marshall history across all sports, simply because of because of the circumstance. There was a lot of hand-wringing about, do we bring the football team back? Is it worth it? It's more, are they going to be competitive? And for them to go out there and field a team in spite of that significant tragedy, the greatest, the worst tragedy in college sports, really, the worst tragedy in sports history, period. So for them to go out there and field a team and say, you know what, we're going to do this thing. By God, we're going to do it. And they did the dang thing. So I think that's the most important one in terms of just the implications and the circumstances. But this is up there. I mean, this is, and the thing that I think it's so important to convey to Marshall fans, and they know this, but really to the outside world, is that, you see the ESPN and the Bleacher Reports, and they're covering it, and, it's an upset. I heard Sage Steele say on SportsCenter today, little old Marshall, an upset over a history steeped Indiana. That's great. And no disrespect to the Indiana culture, no disrespect to the Indiana tradition. I'm going to borrow a quote from Rick Pitino real quick. Todd Yeagley is not putting on his boots and subbing on in the 75th minute. Tradition only gets you so far. And Marshall was the better team last night. Marshall had the better roster. They outplayed Indiana. By no means was that an upset. The only reason it was an upset is because Marshall was not unseated. And to me, that's more of an indictment on the selection committee than it is on Marshall's season. Marshall is the best team in college soccer. Sometimes you can make the argument that the best team doesn't always win. The best team won the national championship this year. Marshall has the best coaching staff. They have the best tactical approach, the best roster, and they're doing it like we talked about yesterday, Paul, in spite of not having access to the same amount of money and sort of facilities that a team like Indiana does. And that's, all respect to Indiana because they have more NCAA tournament wins than anybody in postseason history. They got 8 national championships. They played in a NCAA tournament record 21st College Cup last night. But again, tradition only takes you so far. And you get a team in there like Marshall, and you could see Indiana was frustrated. They were trying. You could look on their face with, why is this team in Marshall, this little team in Marshall, they're not bending or breaking. We're going blow for blow with each other. And you could see it was frustrating because they're Indiana. When you get in a close match with a team like Indiana, they even said it on the broadcast, team like Akron, team like Indiana, it's just different. Except for Marshall, because Marshall is built to beat those teams. When Chris Grassie got here, he said his goal was obviously to win a national championship, but it was to build a roster that could beat a team like Charlotte or beat a team like Kentucky. They're past that now. Marshall have beaten Charlotte. They have beaten Kentucky. The prize gets bigger. The goals get loftier. And the goal now is we're going to build this roster to be able to beat Georgetown and Indiana and Clemson and North Carolina. And you see, they did that. And so in order to beat those teams, you have to have the best roster in the nation. Well, Marshall checked all those boxes. Therefore, the argument is Marshall has the best roster in the nation. And that's a huge testament to Chris Grassie, Josh Vega, Petsa Ivanovic, Brian Grassie. I said it yesterday, they scour the world for the best players available. They've done that, and this is destiny fulfilled. This is no fluke. Marshall didn't fall rear end backwards into a national championship. They earned it. They fought. They belong here, and they proved that last night.
I got to leave you with the final word. I got to hit the break. When we come back, we're going to say goodnight to everybody here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Okay, so we did go a little long with Jake. That's okay because it was well worth it. How many times do you win a national championship for the first time in soccer? Marshall won 2 Division I AA football championships in football. Marshall won a basketball championship, which is now the NAIA. And Marshall has now won its first Division I championship in men's soccer. Don't see that happen every day. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks to Chris Grassie. Thanks to Jake Griffith. Coming up later on this evening, Marshall will be arriving back in Huntington. Celebration plan at the soccer complex. Enjoy the championship, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W231BS Huntington, broadcasting from the Oscars Breakfast Burgers and Brew Studios. This is ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.